One of the biggest blessings of my life is the relationship that I have with my wife, who's also my business partner. So we spend a lot of time together, like 24 hours a day working on the same startup, and that can create a lot of pressure. In this video, I want to share some reflections on what I consider to be the single most important quality in any relationship that allows you to navigate pretty much any challenging situation and offers deep fulfillment and nurturing. And that is radical transparency. I want to offer a distinction here in that there's a difference between thinking and feeling the thoughts and emotions that you have and doing the actions that you take. In any relationship, there are a set of agreements. They may be spoken or unspoken. Often in an intimate relationship, there's an agreement of fidelity. And this is a function of doing, action. So we have an expectation that our partner will not do something or take particular actions with other people. The challenge is when we also expect them to think and feel in particular ways. We'd like them to think and feel in particular ways, but the reality is that we're all human beings. When we meet in a relationship, we bring with us all of our random thoughts and feelings that just come up all the time. We bring with us everything that happened in our childhood that's now formed who we are as adults, and we bring with us just our raw primal urges. Like a human being has all these primal urges that are part of being alive. And when we create a box of expectations around what that should look like, it makes it much harder to be in a relationship. So part of radical transparency is about creating the conditions for a person to be completely authentic about who they are and everything that's coming up in their experience. See, one way I think about this is when something comes up in your experience that you have difficulty talking about, right? So whatever that might be for you, maybe there's something in the background of your mind or your being or something that this is not something that you can talk about in your relationship. You would need to know how to start, right? That's a perfect territory to explore. Because when there's something like that, and sometimes it's something subtle and sometimes it's more significant, like a serious attraction you have for another person, or maybe an act of infidelity or whatever. But whatever it is, when there's something there that you don't feel comfortable talking about with your partner, it's kind of like you put a brick down in the energetic space between you. And as soon as you put one brick down, what happens is it begins to take energy to withhold that part of you from the relationship. And as soon as it begins to take energy to withhold one part of you from a relationship, it actually automatically makes it much more likely that you will begin to withhold other parts of you from that relationship. So once that first brick is laid down, it becomes that much easier to put a second brick down, to put a third brick, a fourth brick, and so on and so forth. So radical transparency is really about clearing all these bricks with an understanding that intimacy, particularly like physical intimacy, is what naturally emerges between people in an intimate relationship in a clear space of communication. One way to think about this is really this understanding of coherence. Right? Coherence is what you think, feel, what you what you think and feel is aligned with what you say and do. So talked about earlier, the agreements that you have in a relationship, these are usually related to the things that you say and do, the outward actions. What do you do when what you think and feel might be out of alignment? Right? How do you, because not being in coherence, right? When you maybe you're familiar with a situation where you did something or said something that wasn't quite aligned with how you felt or what you were thinking. And if you can remember a situation like that, you know that most likely doesn't feel very good or feels exhausting. It's not the condition that you want for your relationship. So what do you do when what you think or feel isn't acceptable to be authentic about in a relationship, even though what you're saying and doing is entirely in agreement. So we're really talking about how do you create coherence between two people so that that energy, so that that relationship becomes something that gives you energy rather than takes energy away. When you have to constantly hold a part of you back, that's exhausting. That takes a lot of energy. So when you can both be in deep coherence when you're with each other, then that becomes something that gives you energy. And the challenge is that often, in this context of expectations, we have all these unspoken expectations. Like, one are the expectations that we might have that are entirely appropriate to the agreements of a relationship. But then two are these expectations that we have about how we wish a person would think and feel. But the problem is that the thoughts and feelings that a person has aren't always entirely in their control. These are just things that come up in our human experience. And where this comes into play in a relationship is inevitably in our feelings of self-worth. Because my feelings of self-worth then are often tied to what another person thinks and feels, but they're not in control of what they think and feel. So all of a sudden, you're screwed. This is what radical transparency is about. One is just recognizing that what a person might be thinking or feeling, or the urges that they might have. Maybe they feel attraction for another person. That doesn't mean they no longer feel attraction towards you, but maybe they have a sense of attraction towards another person, right? Or maybe they're having a hard time feeling attracted to you. And what do you do with that? How do you navigate that? Well, one is to really just recognize that who you are and your sense of self-worth isn't related to that. And it's one thing to say that, it's another thing to actually recognize it, right? But just to explore that with a lot of compassion and empathy for yourself. And two is to create a space that allows that person to explore that with you. That's intimacy. Intimacy is authenticity, is being able to be deeply authentic with each other at the deepest levels. When you have that quality of communication with each other, you can navigate anything. When you can really meet each other at the deepest levels of your humanity, of whatever it is that's most difficult for you to accept about yourself, about your urges, about like your fantasies, or whatever is like coming up for you that's so difficult to deal with as a human being, when you can be met by your partner there, and your partner can witness that and really receive that and hold space and make it okay, right? That we put so much shame on, it's wrong to be this way, it's wrong to think this is not what a man is like, this is not what a woman is like, right? It's all bullshit. This is what a human is like, right? It's not a man and a woman that's in a relationship here. It's two human beings. What does it take to meet each other at that level of humanity and genuinely hold space for the authentic experience and expression of another person, however difficult it might be for you to receive that and really witness that? If you can create that as the container for your relationship, to really create a clear space of communication, a clear space, energetic space between you, where there's nothing lurking in the shadows, there's nothing that's being withheld because it's wrong or not allowed, but where everything is visible, it fundamentally transforms the nature of your relationship. So how do you do that? One way to do this is with, obviously, with just a daily practice and a commitment, whatever comes up, to talk about it. For some people, maybe you've got a lot of little bricks piled up, and so it's a little more challenging. For some of you, maybe you have some big bricks piled up. Maybe there's been an infidelity or a major breach of trust, and you still haven't communicated about that. And of course, that's its own thing. How do you navigate that? That's outside the scope of this conversation. But for if you have a bunch of smaller bricks, one way to navigate that is with this exercise that I call 5 minutes. So you get a timer, set it to 5 minutes. One of you is the speaker, one of you is the listener. The listener just listens, and the speaker speaks uninterrupted for 5 minutes about whatever they need to share. If you're the listener, you're doing your best to receive. And receiving doesn't mean that you're just hearing and then thinking about how you're going to respond. Receiving means that you're really feeling how the other person feels, so that that person feels felt by you. That's receiving. A person is received when they feel received. This is a really important distinction. A person is received when they feel received. So what does it take for you to create the conditions for them to feel received? Because once that communication has been received, that person can actually let go of it. That's the magic of this kind of process, is whatever it is that might be wrong or taboo or somehow like challenging to talk about, when that can be fully received, oftentimes what actually happens is it dissolves. So 5 minutes, one person shares, the other person receives, and then you switch to the other person and they do the same uninterrupted. And then if it feels like it's appropriate and you can have an integration conversation. But again, very careful not to be defensive, justifying, explaining, responding with anger. All of that diminishes the process of communication, of authenticity, of just fully receiving and allowing a person to be witnessed exactly as they are. Because that witnessing exactly as they are is what allows that energy to flow and then restores the energetic relationship between you. And once that energetic relationship has been restored, the relationship becomes a source of energy. So it's no longer something that takes energy because I have to withhold a part of myself. It becomes something that energizes you, that nurtures you, that fulfills you at the deepest levels. All right, my friends, I hope that has been somehow helpful or inspirational. I wish you the most fulfilling relationship ever. May you be blessed. So much love. Thank you for watching.